Welcome to this little talk about the sustainable transformation of system. What an easy thing to do, right? No, of course not. That was the first joke. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? But we are here because we are interested in how we could achieve change, how this could work, and because we are interested in changing our food system. And before I introduce myself again, I want to see who's here. Maybe you can raise your hand if you have some background in politics. Nice, okay. Who's working in the farming industry or food production? Oh, nice. Okay, 2 people at least. Yes, great. Who would call themselves activist? Nice. That's a lot. That's great to see. Thank you. Yeah, that's me. You can call me Sarah, and I'm crazy enough to make sustainability my profession. I'm in the master's program Sustainability Science, Governance and Law, and I'm also putting a large part of my free time into politics because I'm a regional deputy in Hamburg, Harburg, so the district. So a large part of my life is also about what is sustainability and also how can I myself change something. And that's also the biggest point I want to make today. How can we promote sustainable values by becoming effective change agents ourselves? And because sustainability scientists love hands-on experience, I brought our system. Let's imagine it's a global food system. That's what we want to change. And we want to have a look how that's possible. And the first thing we have to acknowledge is we saw such a valley or basin already with the hot earth. But if our system is stuck in such a basin, we first have to acknowledge that there is a way out there, because sometimes it can feel quite overwhelming if we start also with small things and then we run into crazy barriers and suddenly you feel like, oh, that's too much, it's too complicated, like we can't change anything. But we have to acknowledge it is possible. We maybe, I don't know, fill up that basin, or when we look at that big hill of resilience, that's all the barriers, all the characteristics of the system that build up to this big hill, we can try to reduce that. And maybe it's a bit easier to bring that system over the tipping point to our new state and keep it there. What our goal would be like a plant-based food system. But also, we maybe want to use a big lever to push our system, to make it a bit easier to push our system over the tipping point. And that's why I brought a framework that looks at different leverage points. And I think it fits quite well to what we heard already. Usually, let's just build it up real quick. Usually politicians, or who knows physics? Right, okay. So where would you need to push to make it easier for us to push that system up? Like, would it be here? No. It's over there. The longer lever is better, right? Okay. And politicians, I said I'm also a politician, we love to push over here because that's the taxes. We just changed taxes. We just changed subsidies to nudge the companies or people to become a bit more sustainable. But that's just a very small leverage point, and it won't really push our system up. Then maybe there are some bold politicians here who introduce bans, regulatory policy, like maybe just banning all pesticides or banning all intensive livestock farming. Like, that would be a really big shake in our system, right? That would make a big difference. So that's good, but the longest lever, according to this framework, is changing our mindsets, changing the people's mindsets and paradigms. And we already heard some great examples, like the formation, where this is happening, and this is really important and the basis for our transformation. So still, it's not an easy thing to do. but we can start filling up that basin. We did a pretty good job today. We started by problem awareness. We learned a lot about the problem, and we can tell other people about that. And then a lot of people here are already endorsing the plant-based treaty, or you can yourself endorse the plant-based treaty. And like we heard with that great example, maybe a big level would be to change mindset in farming industries, and maybe on the next step, changing mindset in politics and with politicians. Oh, our system is just collapsed. That was a tipping point, right? Okay, I just put it over here. To become a good and effective change agent, I want to introduce this framework for you. Maybe you know the Sustainability Development Goals. Of course you know them. This framework is called Inner Development Goals, and it's about strengthening your own skills and your motivation to be able to become an active change agent, because it can be overwhelming, it can sometimes feel too much, and the first step would be a good relationship to myself, being clear about what my values are, what my goals are, and what I want to achieve. And the next thing is like cognitive skills, especially when looking at what is my vision I want to achieve and how could I come there. What would be good steps to do that? We will also look at a method in a few minutes. And then the next thing would be talking to others, relating to others, especially being empathetic, being open to also people who have different values right now. We also heard today that there can be a change in yourself, and that's very important. So be open to everyone, even though they are maybe completely against plant-based food. Maybe you can still try to change their perception. And what is a big part of that, sometimes it can also help to first listen to that other person, to open up the conversation, we heard that before, to not get the other person to this defensive state. So you might also want to have an inclusive mindset and also intercultural competencies. And lastly, optimism is a big part of that, especially when you become active, when you do your first steps and run into these crazy barriers. Perseverance and optimism, and talking to your colleagues, talking to your friends, people who do the same thing, people who endorse the plant-based treaty, exchange and talk about difficult situations, but stay optimist. So how do we start? A good method for that is backcasting. Oh, the method is gone. Okay, maybe... So now we can see it. It's backcasting, because sometimes it's easier to think from the end. What's my goal? What's my vision? And then it's also good to know more about the current system. Like I said, we already heard a lot about the problem, so we have a good basis for that. But also, I want to think about what are the actors I need to talk to. For example, if I want to change the food menu at my university, what would be the people to talk to? And what are their interests? And then I need to be clear about my own vision and what I want to achieve, and maybe already think about what could be power dynamics or power shifts, or what do I need to be aware of. And then going from the future to the present can really help to just write down all the crazy steps you might take in the future and that feel just too big for right now. But then when you come closer to the present, the steps might be more achievable, smaller. And when you take the road, you will feel like, okay, the big steps are now achievable. Yeah, and that's already what I wanted to show you. thanks for your attention. Changing mindsets is really important, and stay optimistic. Have a good time in networking today, finding other people to go on that road and change our food system.